Welcome to Learning English with Captain Binoy Varakil, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Joseph's College, Calicut, Kerala. Today we discuss the theme of familial responsibility and entrapment in the play August Osage County by the American playwright Tracy. LETTS. The atmosphere of the Western clan's ancestral home is stifling and tightly controlled, and the effects of such an environment on the individuals made to endure it become increasingly sinister as the play unfolds. As tension mounts and horrible secrets come to life, LETTS paints a picture of mechanisms of responsibility and entrapment that keep people tied to abusive and miserable families. LETTS ultimately suggests through his careful examination of the three Western sisters, Barbara, Karen, and Ivy, each of whom feel a different level of responsibility for their parents and larger extended family, that the only way to escape a broken family is to sever oneself from their origins entirely, leaving behind any and all chances of being pulled back in. When Barbara arrives in Pawhuska with her husband Bill and their daughter Jean, she comments right away on the oppressive heat, itself a symbol throughout the play for control, suffocation, and entrapment. Barbara, as a parent's eldest child, is given task after painful task once she arrives home. It is Barbara who has to go identify Beverly's body once it is dredged up out of a local lake. It is Barbara who leads the pill raid once she realizes that her mother is, for at least a second time in her life, hooked on narcotics. It is Barbara who must remain with her mother alone in the house she hates after nearly everyone else in the family has up and left. With each task, Barbara is pulled deeper into her family's web, and towards the end of the play, it seems that Barbara has failed once and for all to get herself back out. As the play draws to a close, Violet reveals that she knew all along that Beverly was actually at a nearby motel during the days he went missing, and could have saved him from committing suicide by simply picking up the phone and calling him. This revelation is too much for Barbara to bear. Though she has been walking around her mother's house for days or weeks like a ghost, losing touch with her life outside Pawhuska, Barbara, in the wake of Violet's admission, retrieves her rental car keys and leaves without another word, making clear her intent to never look back. Karen, meanwhile, is characterized as a narcissistic dimwit, clinging desperately to a sense of elaborately constructed optimism. She prattles on about the happiness she has in Florida with her new fiancé Steve. After a lifetime of being treated badly, Karen says she is finally being treated right. As Karen monologues at her sister Barbara, whom she hasn't seen in years, while they set the table for their father's funeral dinner, it's clear that Karen is actively trying to paint a picture of herself as someone who has established both physical and emotional distance from the claustrophobia of her toxic family, and thus found enlightenment and true happiness. As the play continues to unfold, though it will become clear that in trying to establish a life away from home, Karen has aligned herself with someone perhaps even worse than the Westerns. Steve comes on to Barbara's 14-year-old daughter Jean, eventually attempting to seduce her one night in the kitchen. Jonah puts a stop to the assault, attacking Steve with a frying pan, but Karen is quick to defend her beau after the incident. She admits that she herself has done things she is not proud of, cause sometimes life puts you in a corner that way. By alluding to having taken desperate measures and done bad things in order to escape the corner her family had wedged her into, Karen demonstrates how she has stood at nothing to try and get away from her family. Ivy's experience of entrapment at the hands of her parents is so profound that she cannot conceive of a life or a relationship outside of her family. This is reflected in her choice to pursue a romance with her cousin Lily Charles. Ivy is the only Western girl to have stayed behind in Oklahoma. While Barbara moved to Colorado and Karen went to Florida, Ivy has wasted her life in service to Beverly and Violet. Despite her proximity to home, Ivy feels disconnected from her entire family except for Lily Charles. The play implies that Ivy and Lily Charles have always been the odd ones out. Barbara remarks that two of them have always marched to their own beat. Ivy tells Barbara that for years she stayed in Pawhuska, hoping against hope someone would come into her life, but never making any romantic connections. Having become so wrapped up in her parents' insular world, Ivy chose, when pursuing romance, to burrow even deeper into the mechanisms which have kept her tied all her life to her family. When Lily Charles is revealed to be Ivy's half-brother, it symbolizes that Ivy is even more entrapped within her family than she would like to believe. As the realization of what Ivy has done hits her, she leaves the house, promising Barbara that she's going to run away to New York with Lily Charles. Whether Ivy will go through with this remains unknown, but what is certain is that even if she runs away from her family, her relationship with Lily Charles will forever serve as a reminder of the insularity of her own world as well as her inability to escape her responsibilities to her family. In creating a sense of entrapment, claustrophobia, and inescapability, LETTS turns the Western's home into a house of horrors, which releases the members of the Western clan only when they have declared their intent to cut all ties to the rest of the family. Though the three Western sisters are at the center of the play, the other characters are bound to this spell-like code too. Karen and Steve leave after Steve transgresses against Jean, and Karen speaks of fleeing to Belize on their honeymoon. Bill leaves with the declaration that he and Barbara will never repair their marriage. Charlie leaves, threatening to divorce Mattie Faye. Ivy leaves, promising to run away to New York. Barbara leaves after telling her mother she is strong enough to live and die on her own. As the characters realize that to escape their home, they must sever themselves from one another, Let's paints a dark but compelling portrait of family as a kind of rat trap, something one can only escape by destroying a small part of oneself. With this, we come to the end of the discussion of all the 5 themes of the play, and in the subsequent video lecture, we discussed the symbols in the play. There are 2 major symbols in the play. In the next lecture, we discuss the theme of heat in the play, August Osage County by Tracy. LETTS. Thank you.